The Bengals have made a bunch of moves this offseason. Is a Joe Burrow restructure coming? Let's get to that and much, much more right now on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He's Andrew Fox Miller. Catch us every single Tuesday right here on the YouTube channel Cincinnati Bengals Talk, proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Check them out today at fanduel.com/Ohio. And let's dive in, Andrew, because there's plenty to get to, plenty to discuss. And a big thing that you, me, everybody has asked over the past few months: are the Bengals going to restructure Joe Burrow's contract? And it did sound like, and by the way, you can watch everything Duke Tobin had to say on Monday. It did sound like that there was at least a possibility that the Bengals would consider restructuring Joe Burrow's contract after the Dexter Lawrence trade, after all of their moves in free agency. They have a Miles Murphy lingering fifth-year option. They have potential contract extensions from some of their other players, Dax Hill, DJ Turner. I'm going to leave it up to you here. What did you think about this comment from Duke Tobin? And I'm going to start with Paul Dehner Jr.'s question for full context, and then we'll get your thoughts and react to it on a Joe Burrow possible contract restructure.
Have you approached Joe Burrow about a restructure? Is that something you would do?
Oh, those are things that we're working through after the draft. And again, we've layered in challenges, but we're up to them. And we do it because we got the opportunity to add the right people and the right players. And those are challenges that the locker room isn't interested in. They're interested in having the best team possible. And that's what we're trying to give them, is the best team possible.
I mean, look, it seemed like it was more of a possibility than that they would restructure Joe Burrow's contract based on what Duke Tobin said today. Then it seems as though they're willing to say that they need help at the linebacker position. Like, that seemed more likely in that moment. And I honestly expected Duke to kind of push right past that question, or at least kind of make it even more vague. And it's not that he was crystal clear that, yes, we are going to do this. It's we're going to be looking into this now that we're not so inundated with all this free agency and draft stuff. But for a Duke Tobin answer, that's about as close as we're kicking the tires as you can get.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised because money got brought up a few times, and he said top of spending in the league, damn near it if we're not. And he said, I haven't tallied the final numbers and stuff. And the Bengals have committed a ton of money. They've spent a lot this offseason. There's no doubt about it. But a contract restructure would be spending money to free up cap space. It would be giving Joe Burrow a lump sum now to free up cap space now that can be used now or later. It rolls over if you don't use it now. So they would be spending more. And that's what I think is interesting about this is, one, could they use more cap space? Yeah, they absolutely could. I mentioned a bunch of reasons why. So did you. Linebacker would be one. Contract restructures or extensions, not restructures. And excuse me if I misspoke earlier. From a contract structure standpoint, if you restructure Joe, you're going to have more cap space, more flexibility to spend money on these other guys on your roster. Do they have that? And by have that, I know they have that, like physically have it, but are they willing to do that, push that envelope there? I think it's really interesting because the more and more I look at this offseason and everything they've done, and a lot of this has changed in the past 10 days. The Dexter Lawrence trade is such a huge part of it. With the Dexter Lawrence trade now, I look at this Bengals offseason, and it's as aggressive as they've ever been that I can remember at addressing their roster, addressing their biggest needs. And a Joe Burrow contract restructure would be surprising still to me, but a bit less surprising because of all the uncharacteristic things they've done. So if they do restructure Joe, man, oh man, you want to talk about all in? It would go a long way for my money of going all in. I think back to what Duke said at the combine, like all in, I'm all in every year. Well, if Bengals ownership is all in, I think they would restructure Joe. They would use some extra cash and resources to extend some of these guys. And to your point, maybe add to the talent level on this roster, even if they are excited about what they've added already.
Yeah, and I think if you're ever going to have that conversation with Joe Burrow, not that Joe's avoiding it, all indications I've gotten are that he'd be open to having those discussions because it makes the team better. If they're going to have this conversation at all, this would probably be the offseason to do it, to be able to walk over to Joe and say, hey, look, let's discuss this. or his representation, of course. Let's discuss this. You could just sweeping arm. Check this out. You know what I mean? Like Dexter Lawrence could be the only one in the room, but there's plenty of things to be pointing at. Check this out. And this is the offseason for that gesture, for that flex, if you want to call it that. I would think so.
Yeah, I would too. I get that. I totally do. And I think if they do it, it would be with, all right, well, we're doing it so we can get this deal done, or we can bring this guy in, and they feel comfortable with where they're at cap space wise. Like they're not going to do it just to create cap for no reason.
Of course.
Because that's just not in them. And they don't restructure. It's just not something they do.
And they don't always utilize the cap space they have.
And so I think that when I hear Duke, when I hear him say what he said, it at least sounds like there's a possibility of it. And if they do that, now my question is, all right, well, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it just to get more under the cap? No, I don't think that's how they operate. Are you doing it because you want to make sure you're comfortably keeping TJ Slayton and adding to the rookie class, and then going out and getting a Bobby Wagner, and then going out and paying Dax Hill or DJ Turner, one of the two? I'm not sure they'll pay both. I'm sure we'll cover that at some point in the near future. Maybe extending Miles Murphy, not just using the fifth-year option on Miles Murphy, which is something I think the Bengals are interested in. There are layers to it that if you're the Bengals, levers that you could pull, ways you could make your team better if you restructure Joe Burrow's contract. I hope they do it. I hope this is the foreshadowing of, yeah, we're really considering it, but nothing that I would write home about yet. I don't think that this is done by any stretch, but I do want to make this clear. Like, as far as a restructure goes, Joe Burrow he's someone that, you're right, would do it because of the team element, but this doesn't hurt Joe Burrow at all. It's just cash flow. This is just an accounting element here for the team. And if they want to give Joe Burrow some extra cash now, then they can account for it in different ways where it frees up cap space this offseason for the 2026 campaign.
You're right. I think I just look at it as it means something to have that conversation for all the reasons you just mentioned. But from Joe Burrow's perspective, or I should say the front office's perspective, I don't know with Joe Burrow. When you go knock on the door for anything, it's got to be the right reason. You better have a pretty straightforward case. I would imagine he's out there doing whatever in California, working out, doing his thing. You got to pick the right moment to get his attention and review these types of things. And I would, again, go back to what I said is this is probably off season to do it and really lay out what the plan is. Because I think in those discussions, whether or not it changes the money, which again, it doesn't at the end of the day for Joe Burrow, it does add or introduce additional conversation of the why, because you're going to say why you want to do this. And it may not be as clear cut as this player, that player. Yeah, we're going after that. I get that. But I do think when you've got something to back it up in this offseason, show what you've done and have some level, even if it is a high level, of what the vision is and why you're trying to move money around. That conversation, I think, needs to be a little bit clear. You'd be able to see the vision if you're Joe Burrow. So it's interesting to imagine the moment that it happens and knowing what they're coming to the table with in those discussions.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe Burrow spending a lot of his offseason in Cali was with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, getting some getting multiple workouts in over the weekend, which I think is pretty awesome. I thought this was cool. The picture that I think a lot of people reacted to and thought was about the draft, and it wasn't about the draft. It was about their workout and getting better. I think that this is a cool photo where you got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase almost like high school kids in the back seat with the quarterback driving to football practice.
It is cool, and I'm not going to nitpick here, but what's going on with is there like a filter happening here? What does Burrow look like? He's all like enhanced or something. I don't know what's going on there.
He's a good looking dude. What do you mean?
Oh, just great skin. Okay. All right.
Yes. What do you mean? You better have great skin.
I mean,
that California air all off.
That's season. Like mannequin skin, though. I don't know what's going on in that picture.
I think you're big time hating now.
I'm not hating. Hey, there are people. I see the chatter. People are wondering. Hey, big Dexter Lawrence walked in the building. Where's my little social media vertical post of the two of them embracing? Let's size them up next to each other. Where's Joe? Where's Joe? He's out working out. He's out grinding. Nothing to be worried about there. I get that, but there's questions. I hear it. I see the chatter.
Yeah. Whatever. It's April. It's April.
Big offseason, maybe the biggest of his career.
I mean, you're being so dramatic right now. The April where they drafted Joe Burrow was bigger than this April, but I get your point. I get the logic. Here's what I would say. He didn't plan. It's not like he knew Dexter Lawrence was going to get traded for. I'm sure that the plans were the plans, and he already had wheels in motion. Duke Tobin mentioned how busy Joe's schedule has been and will continue to be. That includes working out. The dude works out all the time. Half the time I've seen Joe Burrow this offseason, it's in a screen grab from an Aloe influencer at the gym he's working out at in LA. And he just happens to be in the background of it, and these Joe Burrow accounts find him. So he's putting in the time. But to your point, when will we see him? I would imagine at some point next month when the offseason program rolls on. Will there be a new linebacker on the roster when the offseason program really kicks off and gets going next month when Joe Burrow's here? Will it be the same linebackers? Did the Bengals get an A in the draft? We'll dive into both of those things coming up next right here on End of the Jungle. But I have to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book for a reason. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. You could turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. And obviously, every possession matters in the NBA playoffs. So whether it's prop bets with your favorite stars, you have everything you need at your fingertips with FanDuel. Again, all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/bigplay to get started. That's FanDuel.com/bigplay. You must be 21 plus and present for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts and 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana. And Andrew, I posted my grades on Monday, my draft grades for the Bengals. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you watch that and all of the content we put out over the weekend on the NFL draft. Plenty of interviews, plenty of discussions. You put up an awesome audio only draft calls for day 3 picks for members. So shout out to the members if you've checked that out. And if you're not a member, well, maybe this is your chance to do so and become a member here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Andrew, when you look at this draft, you know how I feel. When you look at this draft, how do you feel about it? Did the Bengals get it right? Should they have addressed other weaknesses? Are you comfortable with the guys they got?
Yeah. So what did you give it? A- overall? Was your overall grade?
It just spoiled the whole thing that I just teased. Yes, that's what I did.
What if I'm going to address it? How am I supposed to address it and not? What are you talking about? Look,
you're not addressing my grade. You rate it, man.
I'm just saying I'm not far off from I think where you were with it. I mean,
I'm giving you the floor. Go ahead.
I could go through some of the picks that I question. I could go through some of the ones that I thought were great. But overall, I think that maybe this isn't a draft that you walk away from saying the Bengals absolutely crushed, but there's mostly good to talk about from it. Cassius Howe, he gives them an immediate contributor with plenty of upside. And they found serious value late in the draft with guys like Brian Parker and Jack Endry. So the middle rounds were a little shaky without any real embarrassments, I guess, or fail grades on my part at least. But you know, they doubled down on traits over proven production at times with Takario Davis, Colby Young. Those were my bigger sort of issues that if we were to a takeaway on that front. But when you're looking at a win now window, speaking of Joe Burrow, you probably prefer more reliable immediate contributors. So there's that. For me, though, if with all that said, it would be like a B or a B minus grade. But then you factor in the Dexter Lawrence trade, and that just strengthens it to a B plus for sure. That would be my final grade overall.
I think that for the most part, you're right. I think they view Takario Davis as not a project, like a ready to go plug and play dude.
I'm sure they do, James.
No, I'm just saying not like a developmental type guy. Colby Young, I think they believe he has the physical ability and all of that and is just going to be a better pro. We'll see. I do think there's some projection there. And you certainly could say projection with both of them. We'll see.
Of course.
I I get the B plus. What could they have done to get an A? Is it because they didn't draft the linebacker? Is it because of the risk they take on the freakish corner and the freakish wide receiver? Like what could they have done, you think, in your mind, to get an A?
I don't know that first of all, to be clear, I don't know that I would change anything about their first pick of the draft. When the Bengals drafted Hal, my immediate reaction was, oh, I was thinking about linebacker help, of course, like Jacob Rodriguez, still out there. I was thinking about cornerback, Avion Terrell, still out there. D'Angelo Pons, maybe even, he's still out there. So my reaction was, oh. Then I pulled up some footage of Hal to sort of re-familiarize myself with him, and my reaction was, oh. I don't know that there's a player on this Bengals roster that can do what he does on tape. Quick, violent, versatile. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I get it and I'm on board. So they had me hooked from the beginning with that pick. And then, yeah, the Tacario Davis, like you mentioned, they don't seem as developmental. Oh, okay. But that's where I started to question things. Maybe a bit of a reach. It wasn't so far off. I'm not going to give it a failing grade or anything like that. But for a player who, maybe gives you some depth, I question whether he'll be a reliable contributor in his rookie year. And that's how I look at these picks, especially the earlier ones or even the middle round ones. You can praise value all you want, but I start to look at it as like, who's out there that I think can immediately contribute to this team and provide something to this team? And I think Tacario Davis will have moments. I think he'll get snaps. I get that. But his rookie year, like he unique size, we're going into that whole territory in the Bengals, and they love their unique measurables. In this case, for a DB, it's such a Bengals move to go after a player with rare size, 6'4" corner, plus he's a developmental player. I'm just going to say it. I feel like it's still a bit of a swing when.
Sure.
Jermon McCoy, I'm not going to go down this path, but I'm sorry. He was taking 29 picks later, give or take. Like, someone was willing to take a chance on him. Keith Abney, he fell to the 5th round. I could go on. This is just their guy, and I respect that. And I hope for the best. I don't know that I would have gone that route.
Yeah, I get questioning it. I just don't think he's a project. They wanted an outside corner. I tried to let everyone know, like, that was their priority. And it doesn't mean that they weren't in on some of these nickels, because they were. But later, day 3, in Abney, there are definitely scenarios where Keith Abney's a Bengal. And they had Colby Young higher. And that was their last shot at getting Abney. And they went with Young. And it is interesting, like the projection there. I do think that there's a realistic scenario where he pushes wide receiver 3. I think Tacario Davis could easily is going to be your third outside cornerback, someone that can match up against tight ends potentially. And your third outside cornerback plays a lot. And maybe he just becomes your outside cornerback and you move Dax inside. Like if he's that good, they will do that. They'll be forced to do that. And I think there's a whole conversation there, but no linebacker. What's interesting about that and what we know now is there wasn't a linebacker close to Hal on their board. And I mean, not even remotely close. Jacob Rodriguez couldn't have thrown a baseball and hit Hal in the head. I mean, you couldn't have had Barry Bonds maybe might have been able to hit one, but there was such a huge gargantuan gap.
Off pure evaluation or more of a fit thing? Can you speculate on that?
On their board, right? So whatever reason. I think that they had other linebackers even ahead of Rodriguez. Like, I think it was that big of a gap. Now, what that says is 2 things. One, they clearly didn't feel after meeting with Rodriguez that he was their guy. So there's one. 2, they were in on linebacker. And that's the other thing, this narrative that, and I'm trying to hammer it home, just because they stuck to their board, it's exactly what I wanted. And you heard me. One of the reasons I was down on the pass or their free agencies, they didn't get another pass rusher. I love the Hal pick. Makes a ton of sense. You're right. He's awesome. And he's going to help them in a big way. I'm okay with taking that over a linebacker that you're just kind of meh on. I don't want to force the linebacker position in general. That's why last year stunk when they did it with in 2 rounds, 2 of the first 4 rounds of the draft. Not ideal at all. I'm not mad at them for not addressing linebacker. I also think it's very clearly a need right now with 2 guys that had a lot of counting stats last year, but obviously didn't play well. And even if they grow, it's clearly the biggest weakness on defense.
By the way, I got to address this quickly regarding your grading. I thought you were going to be way more brutal about the Colby Young pick. I did. And it's not to say that you weren't critical. You certainly were. But you gave it maybe an average grade at best. I get that, but like
C minus.
Yeah. Okay. You were C minus. All right. So I still almost expected you to go harder on them for that, because like we get it, right? 6'5", sub 4.5 speed. Again, one of those height, length, speedster guys that these Bengals seem to go after. And it's a weapon, James. Sure. It's a weapon that you love when they get their weapons, but never mind the projected value. But how many times do we have to keep trying to find the true answer for another wide receiver on this team? I mean, Joseph is a fine player, but we're watching and waiting for him to take that next step as a clear-cut wide receiver 3 or cement himself as part of this offense in general.
Yeah.
And then they do this? Like, I don't know. I hope he turns out great. I love the measurables. That's fine. But again, speaking of developmental, I don't know. I felt like they had better options out there.
It's a swing. This one's the swing, right? Like Keith Abney was there. Chandler Rivers was there. There were some nickel corners that you certainly could look at and say, hey, this would make a lot of sense. But they go this route, and look, he made some plays. He's really good after the catch. He's a big guy, contested catch guy. He's going to get compared to T. Higgins because of the frame you mentioned, 6'4 plus.
Kind of reminded me of like an Alshon Jeffrey, to be honest.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. To me, like, and he's probably better after the catch, so maybe this is kind of insulting, but he's got to prove it. He's a fourth round, last pick of the fourth round, so we can say he's a souped up Auden Tate. He's Auden Tate, but can run.
Auden Tate.
And dude, people used to love Auden Tate.
I know.
Right? You know, and it was hilarious, but it was true. And so can this guy give you the contested catch, back shoulder, deep threat? I'm going to win these one-on-ones that I'm going to face always. And he's a pretty good blocker. Like I see the vision the Bengals have, but there's a risk. There's a risk in his off the field profile. There's a risk in his lack of production. There's a risk in that he's almost 24 years old.
Yeah. See, that was another reason I thought you were going to be really down on it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's the end of the fourth round. It's a big difference between pick 49 and the end of the fourth round. Like that's huge. Like when I'm evaluating this, but like, just to give you an idea, production wise, like I want to pull this up here and see. Jamar Chase had 1,780 receiving yards his last year at LSU. Right. And so like, that's a high level production. I'm going to pull up young stats. He was under 1,500 yards, 1,437 yards in his entire college career. And I get it. Jamar Chase was the 5th pick and one of the best college players ever, and certainly best college wide receiver prospects ever. But like, you had the suspension at Georgia his first year there, right? After he had a breakout campaign in Miami, 47 catches, 563, 5 touchdowns, goes to Georgia, has the off the field issue, suspended. All those things happen, only plays in 5 games. Gets returned to play, comes back this past year, 26 catches, 358 yards, a touchdown, and he missed 6 games due to a broken leg. Now, he rehabbed his butt off to get back from that broken leg, but still, it is, I get why you question it. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits. I also get why you'd say big, fast, physical, willing blocker, really good hands, character, it checks every box outside of that incident, which is a real incident, but since then, there's like multiple accounts, even Dane Brugler's draft guide. It showed, hey, this guy had the backing of a lot of his teammates. We'll see. There's a question mark there. That's why it was a C-. It's a below average pick. I see the vision. I understand it. By the way, I saw the Jermaine Burton vision. And about a month in, you realize that thing was not going to work. And so can he, I don't think this is Burton. Doesn't feel like it. It feels different than that. But can they maximize him? We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're not going to go pick by pick here, but you're talking about almost 24. I'm fascinated by the Connor Lew pick just because of the fact that he's 20. That blows my mind. Team captain, recovering from the torn ACL. By the way, if I tore my ACL, I probably wouldn't even be able to walk to my basement and get on camera, James. Like Connor Lew tore his ACL 7 games into the 2025 season. This guy is probably already playing like pickleball with a few beers that he bought with a fake ID at this point. So he's just going to bounce back from that. I have no doubt about it. Probably doesn't even need to suit up in 2026. Ted Karras, who knows how much longer he'll be playing. But by the time Ted Karras retires, Connor Lew could still be younger than Colby Young when that happens.
That's fair. No, and I get it. I do. I also think that Colby Young is of that grown man stature. And that's the other thing. It's like he's big, fast, physical, ready to go. we'll see. But Connor Liu, like the pick a lot. They needed a backup center, fits the need, great value. And make sure if you missed it, you check out all the draft grades that we had, all of our draft coverage right here
draft coverage
on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.
B plus, A+ for our draft coverage, B+ for the draft.
Andrew didn't leave that chair. He was in that chair.
Oh my
right
God,
there.
I'm sick
in
of
that
it.
chair. Look at him in that chair. We're going to extend the show another 10 minutes just so you could sit in that chair.
It's a standing desk. I'll raise it up. I got that. You'll hear the motor right now. Here it goes. There. My laptop's getting in the way.
Yeah, don't do that. And that's going to do it for us. Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Enter the Jungle.